Good morning and welcome to another edition of Chemistry on the Fly with Mr. Aff. Today is an emergency edition because some of you are still having some trouble with balancing equations. So I'm going to go through very quickly today on how to do that. So one of the things that we learned is we have some steps. So we draw a line down the middle, we ID our elements, we check the quantities original, we check to see if we're balanced, and then we change our coefficients and then keep on checking our balanced as we go. And as Ross has told us, we have to practice, practice, practice. So this is something that we're going to have to do. We're going to go through the first 5 questions on our worksheet, and we're going to do this with not as much fanfare as we usually do. So here's our first equation. It is barium plus sulfur is going to yield barium sulfide. So I've already drawn the line down the middle. We see that we have barium and sulfur are our elements. We have 1 and 8 on the reaction side, so the 1 barium is there, sulfur has 8. And then on the product side, we have 1 and 1. So barium sulfide has 1 barium and 1 sulfur. Okay, obviously we're going to look and see if we're balanced, and we can see that we're not. So the first thing I need to do is barium is already balanced, so we're not going to mess with that one. We are going to mess with the sulfur. So we're going to have 1 sulfur on the product side and 8 on the reactant side. So I need to change the coefficient and multiply the sulfur by 8. So I'm going to take the 8 down here, and then I'm going to put an 8 up into our chemical equation. Now that 8 is also associated with the sulfur, but as well it's going to be associated with the barium. So I have to multiply that one by 8 as well. So now we have our sulfurs balanced, but we do not have our bariums balanced. So I need to, on the reactant side, I need to multiply the barium by 8. So we're going to do it on the bottom and then put our 8 on the top. Now, some of you have asked questions on what do I do with the worksheet. So what we're going to do is I copy the worksheet. This is the first problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our numbers in the worksheet. So it's the coefficients that we're putting in here. So the 8 is going to go there. The sulfur is going to be a 1. And the barium sulfide is going to be an 8. Now, you notice that I have a blank in the sulfur, and I put a 1 in the worksheet. Some students like to not leave blanks, which I completely understand, so we'll just let it be that way. So you can either leave it as a 1 or leave it blank or put a 1 in there. It's your choice, and I will realize that either way it means 1. Now chemists, they're kind of lazy. They don't put the 1 in there, but for this class I'll let you do that. All right, so that is our first question, our first one that's balanced. So let's look at number 2. This time I have glucose, and it's going to break down into carbon and water, and this is going to be a decomposition reaction. And we're going to write down our elements, CHO. CHO, we're putting them on both sides. We're going to find out our original or our initial quantities. So this is step number 3. So I have 6, 12, and 6 on the reactant side, and on the product side I have 1, 2, and 1. So carbon 1, the 2 for the hydrogen comes from the water, and 1 oxygen. Okay, we'll look at this right away and we can see that we're certainly not balanced. I have 6 on the reactant side of carbons, and I only have 1 on the product side. So we're going to take care of our carbons first. So we're going to multiply by 6 on the product side, and we have a 6 up at the top. So 6 is only matching with the carbons. There's nothing else attached to the carbons, so we don't have anything else to do. Okay, so our carbons are now balanced. We need to look at our hydrogens. We're then going from 2 to 12, so I need to multiply this by 6. That will get us 12. And we'll put a 6 up top, and this one is connected to something else, so it's not just the hydrogen that it's associated with, it's also associated with the oxygen. So I need to multiply that one by 6. So here's our 6 and 6. for the hydrogen and oxygen, and in doing this, we are now balanced, so we're all in good shape. So again, what do I put on my worksheet? In this case, I would put a 1, a 6, and a 6. Now, this is one case. I'm actually going to go back if I can. And I want to let everybody know that sometimes students in the past have put the 12 for, see where hydrogen on the product side, they've put the 12 up on the equation, and that's not a good practice to do. We're not multiplying by 12. That's how many hydrogens we actually have. We're only multiplying it by 6. So 6 is what's going to go up into the equation. And I want to make sure that students don't do that because it happens pretty regularly as in the past. So we already figured this out, so let's go do that. Let's look at number 3 now. All right, so this time I have titanium 4 chloride and sodium, and I'm going to react and get sodium chloride and titanium. This is going to be a single replacement reaction. So I have 3 elements, titanium, chloride, and sodium. I'm putting them on both sides. I'm counting up my elements, so I have titanium is 1, chlorine is 4, sodium is 1. On the product side, I have titanium of 1, chlorine 1, and sodium of 1. And as you can see, we're not balanced. The titanium is balanced, the chlorine is not. So we're going to look at the product side of the chlorine, and we're going to multiply that by 4. So now I have 4 chlorines. I'm going to put a 4 up top. Now the chlorine is 4, but also the sodium is 4. So I have to multiply the sodium by 4. So that gets us an additional 4 for the sodium, and it makes sodium no longer balanced. So the quick solution there is to multiply the sodium by 4 on the reactant side. So we're going to put a 4 up top. Now I'm good to go. So I have titanium 1, chlorine 4, and sodium of 4. So what's this look like on our worksheet? It would be 1, 4, 4, 1. Okay, hope everybody's understanding that. Let's go. We're going to keep going. So let's look at our next reaction. This one is number 4. This is silicon bromide plus water is going to give us silicon dioxide and hydrogen bromide. So we have 4 elements this time, silicon, bromine, hydrogen, and oxygen. They're on both sides. Let's do some counting. So I have 1 silicon, I have 4 bromines, I have 2 hydrogens, and I have 1 oxygen. That's on the reactant side. Let's look at the product side. I have 1 silicon, 1 bromine, 1 hydrogen, and 2 oxygens. All right, so bromine's not balanced, silicon is, so we're going to skip that one. And we're going to look at the bromine, excuse me, and I need to get from 1 to 4, so I'm multiplying this by 4. I'm going to put a 4 up top, and notice that this is also attached to the hydrogen, so that one also needs to be multiplied by 4. Okay, so we're good to go with the silicon now. The bromine's good to go. The next thing I have to look at is the hydrogen, and I have hydrogen is 2 on the reactant side and 4 on the product side. So I'm going to look over, and what do I need to get from 2 to 4? I need to multiply by 2. So my coefficient is going to be 2, and that matches up with, makes the hydrogen good, but it also is attached to the oxygen, so I have to multiply that one by 2. So that little action there actually gets us balanced. So 1 silicon on each side, 4 bromines on each side, hydrogen has 4, and oxygen has 2. So we are good to go here. So what does my worksheet look like? This would be a 1, 2, 1, 4. Okay, hope everybody's getting that. All right, so let's move on to the last one we're going to work on today. So this time I have silver iodide, Ag is silver, plus sodium sulfate, or sulfide, excuse me. And that's going to give us silver sulfide and sodium iodide. So we have 4 elements here, Ag silver, I iodide, and A sodium, and S for sulfur. We're going to put that on both sides. Going to count each one, so I have 1 for silver, 1 for iodide, 2 for sodium, and 1 for sulfur. And on the product side, I have 2 silvers, 1 iodine, 1 sodium, and 1 sulfur. So looks like silver is not matching this time, so we're going to hit the reactant silver with 2. So we're going to put a 2 up top. That's also associated with the iodine, so we're going to multiply that one by 2 as well. So now we've got silver matching or balanced. Iodine is not. So simple solution there is, let's look at the product side. We're going to multiply that one by 2, and we're going to put a 2 up top, and that's also associated with the sodium, so that one's going to be multiplied by 2 as well. And lo and behold, we are balanced. So what does that look like on our worksheet? This would be a 2, a 1, a 1, and a 2. Okay, that's all we're going to look at today. Maybe we'll do another video for Thursday for the balance of the worksheet. But as we know, Ross told us before, this is going to be a practice, practice, practice week. That's all I've got for today, guys, on Chemistry on the Fly with Mr. F. And as always, have a great day.